Now, ladies and gentlemen, the last video that I did where I was washing my van seemed to be quite popular and it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. So this week we're going to do a continuation of that video from where I left off until today. I won't do the wheels first. I was scorned for that last time. The last time we left that video, I was in a hire van that Renault had very kindly given me because these two vans hadn't turned up yet. So that video is about, well, it's at least 2 years old. So this is the story from that point until today. That was right, yeah. I picked up these two vans. It was literally just after that video that I picked these up from Renault West London. They were new. And at that point, I was literally working on my own. I had one guy working with me who left, and I was working alone at that point. So I had two vans. I'd literally just, that was it. I paid the deposit for both of these vans, and then I was on my own. So I had a brand new van sat there not doing anything. I had a phase of people come and go. Because CVs are such bullshit. Nothing that you read on a CV is real. It's always dramatized or inflated to make it look better. And I must have gone through about half a dozen different people, all of varying degrees of ability. Apparently they're all qualified sparks, but they were all varying degrees of ability, and some of them, I swear to God, couldn't even change the disc on an angle grinder. So yeah, we went through a period of just getting through. I was just munching through people, trying to find people I could work with, or trying to find people who were competent and capable of doing the job, etc. And because we had two vans, we had double the amount of work. And of course, at that point, I was doing all the admin books. You know, you're doing everything. You're the manager, the salesman, the debt collector. You're doing everything. And it got to the point that it became counterproductive because I was going out on site, and you know, you booked in to go and do a job, and I just literally couldn't do it because I was doing a board change or something, and every 2 minutes, you know, your phone was ringing, you're trying to answer it, and you ended up spending more time on your phone on site than I was actually doing the job. And the problem with that is it pisses clients off because they're like, hang on a minute, I'm billing, but you're billing me by the hour and you're standing there on your phone. So it's a real double-edged blade. So I came to the conclusion that I needed a staff, I needed an admin, somebody who could do all the paperwork side of it for me. And then Sarah came along. I knew Sarah before we started working together. I've known her for, God, years, like 15, 18 years. We've known each other a long time. And I muted the idea that, look, it just came up in conversation. I said, look, I need some sort of an admin staff. I need someone to answer the phone, take bookings, do all of the stuff during the day. So I basically haven't got to answer the phone during the course of the day because it's annoying customers. Anyway, long story short, Sarah said, yeah, I'll do it. So we agreed her figures and stuff and what her job role was going to be. She worked from home. We did it so she was working remotely. We didn't have an office, so there was no need for her to come in anyway. She can just work from home. If you got a phone and a laptop, that was all she needed. She worked in aviation. She was in the aviation industry before she started here, but she didn't have any electrical experience. So it was a bit of a rocky start. It was just, you know, one day I just literally gave her the phone. I went out and bought a new phone with a SIM card, and you just gave her the phone and you just said, off you go. I mean, that's the best way to do it. And one of the first problems we found was that when customers were ringing up, this was in the first sort of couple of months, customers were ringing up and they were like, oh, is Tom there? And she was like, oh, no, I'm Sarah, I'm, you know, the new admin. And they were like, all of them said the same thing categorically. No, I've got to speak to Tom, got to speak to Tom. Sarah was ringing me saying, look, this is going to be an issue because everybody just wants to speak to you. They don't want to speak to anyone else. And I just said, I'm going to have to get used to speaking to you. And eventually, I mean, there were customers at the beginning who really grumbled about it. They didn't like it. But eventually, it's the same as anything. People get used to it. Once something, you put something in place, people grumble for a little bit, but then everybody gets used to it and it just becomes a norm. And that's how it happened. Sarah just started answering the phone and it just trundled along. This was when problems then started because I had me, Naomi at that point was working with me. Sarah was in the office keeping everything going, keeping us doing all the bookings, keeping us out on the road. The problem was things became, it sounds silly, but things became more efficient. And when things become more efficient, you book more work in. A lot of it was trial and error. You know, I'd never hired somebody just to do admin and paperwork before. It was just a trial and error thing. And then we got a job working at a nightclub down in Moorgate, which we'd started, we had to do all the containment and tray work and everything. Nice job. So I took on another 2 guys there to give me a hand. And that was at the end of 2019, that's right. This was when the beginning of COVID started. And you know, it was in China and it was spreading, but nobody was particularly worried about it over here. It was all right. January 2020 came, and obviously with that, COVID started, and then the first lockdown started. We were doing a house rewire in St John's Wood. What a shit show that place was. And there, yeah, lockdown came, and we just decided we have to do something to get out of the domestic sector, because if we weren't careful, it was just gonna, you know, we were gonna go under. The problem is in the domestic sector, everybody wants something for nothing, and that's just rife everywhere. People want something for nothing. We've got probably, on our books now, I'd say we've got probably 15, 20 clients who are just good as gold in the domestic sector. The rest of them, it's all just money, 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 cheap, 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 fast, fast, fast. And you can't build a business on that. You can't do it. I don't care who says what. And anyway, yeah, lockdown hit. I'm getting carried away here. Lockdown hit, and we decided we had to do something to get out of the domestic sector. We've got to find a way of earning more money that's secure long term. So we looked into it, and we made the decision. I'll forget it. It was outside St John's Wood Station. Me and Sarah were on the phone, and I just said, that's it. We're getting out of this now. I've had enough. And we decided to get into highways work. That was what we decided. And that was just that day we made the decision. That was it. That's what we were going to do. So we looked into it online, and there was no real plan. You know, none of this was like some carefully strategic master plan. There was no plan. It was just, we just had a rough idea and we went with it. So we joined Highway Electrical Register. That was 18 months ago, right? We still haven't got the accreditation yet. That gives you a gauge of how long and laborious that process is. That was when Naomi started with us. We were finding that we were booking more work in as a result. You got Sarah in the office keeping all the jobs going out. Me and Nay were out on the road. Mark joined in occasionally. When we started getting further into the HERS accreditation, we realised that it sounds really weird. You've got to make a loss on some jobs to get bigger jobs, especially in the commercial sector. That's what we started doing. We were going out, we were doing jobs like all the way down in South London. We were making a loss on them, but it was for the greater good. You know, you do, you know, a dozen small jobs which you make a loss on, and you end up netting a big fat fish of a job. There's a job down there for a charity we're starting. We're making a loss on that. We're making an enormous loss on that job, but once we've done it, we can say we've worked for that charity, and that's really big kudos points when you're tendering for work, because they love seeing charity work. So you've got to make a loss on some jobs to look at the bigger picture. You know, not everybody welcomed that idea, let's say. And that was fine. So we were rumbling on. Sarah was booking more work in for us. We were out on the road doing our thing. And me and Sarah made the decision that if we're going to do this, if we're going to properly grow, let's put our chips all in and just do it. That was where the bucket truck came from. We thought if we're getting into highways work, then we need to have the equipment to do it. And we're not doing anything by halves. We're not buying second hand. If we're going to do it, we do it properly, and we get everything new, and we do it, you know, as it should be done. And that was where that truck came. I'll get the hose, but that was where that truck came from. And anyway, as soon as we put the deposit down for that one in sort of October last year, that was okay, this is serious now. We've really got to pull our thumbs out here to make this work. We decided the middle part of 2020 that we were going to start looking for a workspace, a proper office that all of us can work from harmoniously together. Now, everybody I spoke to about that said it was a really bad idea, absolutely appalling. Everyone's working remotely. Why would you want an office to bring people together now? It's a ridiculous idea. I disagree completely. If anything, that is the best investment we've ever made. But when you tell people, you know, oh, it's, you know, X amount of money a year and then this and this, and everybody just goes, oh, you know. But you've got to look at the bigger picture. So we were hunting around for a unit at this point. This was in sort of October, November last year. I had one lined up over in Willesden, about 10 minutes up the road from here. Truth of the matter is I pissed off the landlord, and the deal fell through and we didn't get the unit. In hindsight, looking back at it now, that was a really good thing because we got this unit. Come November, we came to the conclusion that we needed a second staff in the office. So there were 2 of us out on the road at this point, and I wanted to put another person in the office. There'd be 2 in the office, 2 out on the road. I remember when I said that online, and everybody said that's absolutely ridiculous. That's just, you don't need that much staff. But the highways registration, risk registration, ISO registration, all this was just eating so much time and resources. You needed it. There was just no way of getting around it. So that was when Vanita started. I said to Sarah, do you know anybody? She said, funnily enough, I do, as it happens. We just had a quick chat over the phone. It was very informal. It wasn't anything, you know. And she started December 7th, if my mind recalls me correctly. And it was her job to do the registrations, to take over the registrations, because they're very, very labour intensive. And then I was taking days off during the week to go and do courses, training, So fast forward to January 2021, this year, I was doing some driving around I was desperately looking for a unit, and this one here came up. And all of the commercial places we were looking at all wanted 10-year leases. I didn't want to tie myself down for 10 years because I didn't know 100% which way the company was going, which way we were going to go, who was going to be with me, who was going to leave. Because as I said in the last video, as a company grows, its direction changes. You know, if anybody had told me 3 years ago we'd be doing highways work now, I'd have said, go away, joker, what are you on about? But here we are 3 years later, we're doing it. You know, the direction of your company changes sort of without you realizing. To give you a gauge, there's a national, I can't say the name of them, but there is a national gas company, begins with the letter B. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. And they don't have office spaces anymore. They don't have units. They got rid of all of it, and all of their workers across the country work remotely. You speak to any one of their engineers, they hate the mentality that's there now. And it's very demoralizing. You know, there is a certain camaraderie in contracting, you know, people coming together, you know. That's why I put all the stuff in the kitchen. We can share breakfast, have a bit of breakfast together in the morning. It just builds a bit of camaraderie with your workforce. So anyway, I had a look at this unit. To be honest, it was more than we could realistically afford. It was stretching our budget very tight. But I was of the opinion the truck was on order. We'd already put the deposit on that. I had these two vans on the road, and I was like, bollocks, so just put all your chips in. If it fails, it fails. But I'd rather go down knowing I gave it a go. I don't want to get to, you know, 55 and look back and think, well, what would have happened if I'd have taken that risk, you know? So I put the deposit down on this, and it was literally the same day I saw it. I put the offer in, and Superna, who's actually the landlord next door at that unit there, she works up there. Lovely, really, it was meant to be. That landlady was lovely, she was so nice. We moved in here in March this year, and just before we moved in here, Naomi left. She went on to go and do something else, which was it was a shame she left, because she's a great gal. But, you know, our work was changing, and we were just stepping into we've just stepped out of the domestic sector, and it just doesn't suit everybody. So she left, and then we put a job ad out for new staff, and that's how Joe and James started. Joe, I think you've seen on cam. I think you've seen him a little bit on cam. Actually, I'll spray the side down. You've seen him a little bit, and James, I don't think you've seen him on cam yet. And they're both great guys. They're really, really good guys. And then that truck there turned up. So our expenses earlier this year were just astronomical. Our expenses just went through the roof. But I still believe it was the right thing to do. I absolutely would argue that to anybody. We then started doing our risks accreditation to work on the rail network. You need what's called a risks accreditation to do anything. If it involves a station, a platform or a train, you've got to have that accreditation. So we've applied for that, which we've now got. We've got our risks accreditation, that's in the bag now. Then we did our safe contractor membership, CHAS membership, which we've got both of those now. The only one which is still outstanding, which we haven't got, which we need, is our ISO 9001. We haven't got that yet. We paid for it, but it hasn't come through yet. Hence why I'm wearing the yellow pants, highways. And yeah, we agreed with the landlord to get this place, and we shook hands on it, as it were, and we moved into it. That was it. Don't forget, while all of this was going on, to give you a gauge, I was still going out doing the highways courses. I was still going out doing all the training and stuff, health and safety course. I've done so many health and safety courses, I'm sick of them. I was doing all of those. We were still doing all the YouTubes. I admit that was why the content slowed down, but we're still trying to do that in the background and try and keep, you know, all of this set up, trying to then build this as well in the background, which is why the content just ground to a halt, because it swallowed so much time. We just literally didn't have enough hours in the day. Once we moved into this place, this was then when all the chevrons went onto the back of the vans, so this is ready for all the highways work that we're going to be doing. I put those on myself, so we did those in the unit. Then the little Kangoo in there turned up. We had that one because we wanted something that we didn't have to pay any congestion charge or road tax or anything. We just wanted a cheap vehicle. I've actually got a really interesting story about these two and the difference of after sales and aftercare. There is a very, very interesting story that will be coming out in another video. I'll probably record it later on today if I've got time, but that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks' time. And so we then got that van. So that little van was, it was 10 grand plus VAT. Oh, I forgot to mention, in 2019, we became VAT registered. That was the other thing, which wasn't as scary as I'd like to point out as everyone makes it out to be. When you ask people, oh yeah, thinking about going VAT registered and stuff. Let's move around the side here, it's quieter. You know, when people talk about, you know, if you ask a contractor, is it worth being VAT registered? They all come out with the same bullshit response. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. You once you're in, you'll never get out. They'll never let you go. And it's just, I can tell you now categorically, it's bollocks. It's really not that bad. I was scared when we did it, but it was a necessary thing. And it's like now, it's just a normal thing now. You don't think anything of it. We're VAT registered and everything just runs. It just runs fine, you know? It's like a very slow build, a very slow progression, and then suddenly everything starts flying. That's very much the case of what happened here. There was like almost 4 years of just very, very slowly building, putting all the building blocks in place, and then just suddenly it all starts very, very quickly overnight. And that's literally what happened here. I mean, 6 months ago, we didn't have any of this. You know, when I look back at it, I do laugh. You think, you know, God, how the hell did you know, when you think about some of the things you've done, you think, Jesus, I actually did that. But at the time, you don't think about it, you just do it, you know? Which is why I don't really have any patience when people say, oh, you know, it's just ridiculous what you're doing. It's not, it's just, I'm prepared to put all of my chips in and just give it a go, you know? Wheels, right, that's the next thing. Best way to clean them. The community will scream at me for this. Uh-oh. That'll do. Perfect, now I've got a brush. I just love winding up the community. There's nothing quite like it. Oh yeah, the OCD brigade, they're just getting triggered full on right now. I can feel it. It's really quite satisfying. We're all friends here. And that's pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, the story up till today. So there's a lot going on. I mean, this is the first, to give you a gauge, this is the first month that I haven't had to spend like a chunk of money. I mean, actually, to be fair, I haven't bought the ramp to go in there yet, which is about 2,000 quid, and Sarah doesn't know yet. I'm trying to work out how to get, I haven't figured it out yet. I'm still working on it. But that's basically about it. Leave all your comments and thoughts below, but I'll update you again in sort of 6 months' time. I'll do a wash of the bucket truck, and then we'll do another update in 6 months, and I'll tell you the journey from today until that point. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Links are all coming up on the screen now. That's about it. Thank you very much.